Hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to Shaman's Cup episode 2. I'm here with the lovely, magical Fayhart.
Hello.
And I have just been watching this amazing sister open up in so many ways. And from the moment we met, like, she has this way of talking and bringing this magic and bringing this truth and bringing this pretty magical energy, and I invited her to come here. So we don't really know everything we're going to say, but we've been having some really really activated conversations and good laughs. So
And a crazy Monday, I'm just saying. A really
and a
wild
crazy
Monday. So if anyone's getting a taste of the Mondays, you're bored, please look at us. We will entertain you. At least for like maybe 5, 10. I don't know how fucking long it's going to be.
I have no idea.
I don't know. Great. So thanks.
Here we go. We're having some kava.
And I just want to say, y'all don't understand how amazing this person, well, you do because you're watching this video and you're following, but this person in the last 2 weeks has really been able to be present in a way and open themselves emotionally, spiritually, magically, and also craft space in a way where I've been able to entertain parts of my personality and parts of who I am as a person, even outside of any community, outside of the government, outside of country, right? How do I view myself as an entity outside of anyone else's definition? And there's been a lot of opportunities for this one to, not just the conversations we've had today, but also spending time and doing different ceremonies with them where it's like, wow, like the ability to actually have the space and resources to ask yourself, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And how can I fulfill that purpose not only to the nth degree, but in a way that honors myself and every person I interact with?
Yeah.
So that's very much the vibe that I've been getting from this one. So if this is your first video you're watching, you better like and subscribe because this person's got it. Clink.
Oh,
Isn't that how the YouTube works? So
Oh yeah.
good place to start.
So we're here in Portland. Today is my last day here. We're always connected in the ether and
That's
in the
true.
internet. It's like, anyway,
Yes.
Portland's been good to me. Portland's taught me a lot. But you're kind of from here, right? You're from from Vancouver.
Yeah, so I was raised across the river, Vancouver, Washington. Not the glamorous Vancouver, not the one that's doing the cool stuff, the one across the river and like from Portland, right? I was raised here since I was a year and a half old, my twin sister. And so I lived in the area for about 29 years. And so I'm very much rooted here by my feet and my perianal area, so I definitely know it. And I'm making it work. And also very different for me 4 years ago or 5 years ago is I'm starting to make it work in a way that's so much more welcoming to new kinds of people, new kinds of energy, whether it's from anywhere America, anywhere the world, and just being like, hey, there's some opportunities to have conversations and connect with resources and people here in Portland that may not be the exact same way in other cities. So for example, Seattle has this amazing tech and art scene. San Francisco is really culturally creative and all that. But I'm a gardener. And the thing is, if you don't create ground and soil so that it is amenable to the seedling stage of plants, what you're saying to them is, I want plants and I want sunflowers, but it's just so hard to make the soil like comforting for a seed. I just want flowers. Why do I have to plant this shit, you know? And it's kind of like, that's on a human level individually. That's on a community level, which we might end up accessing a little bit, especially Portland energetics and social justice warriorship can sometimes intersect in a way that's really ugly, debasing, and it doesn't get the conversation going forth the way we want to, right? Another topic, sorry. So that plant, right? Being able to make fertile ground and fertile soil. So people, not just us as seeds, star seeds or wherever seeds, right? But that there's seeds of consciousness planted into us by our own heart or other people's hearts. And if you are given the space to explore that, then the root can tap in. The root goes into the ground, it has stability and nutrients, and then it knows where it stands. But again, if we do not make the ground fertile for people, or we make the ground so competitive, it's covered with permafrost, and there's oil on it, and there's water, and there's a wildfire, and the rent for square footage of a lot space in a garden is $2,500 goddamn dollars a month. I need to be grateful for that. You know, all these things end up being limitations for how seeds need to be planted. These are physical seeds.
Yeah.
These are non-physical seeds. And so it's just one of those things, again, it's like, the more I garden and the more I can spend time with magical healers and people who are heart-centered, it makes me realize the world is naturally diverse because of its kindness and its beauty.
Yeah.
And when we limit beauty and diversity because we are unkind,
Yeah.
it ends up showing that it's not our human mouths that are speaking, but our human mouths are being puppets, and something behind the shadows is speaking for us. And not the good shadows that come from the earth or the shadow of a flower in the sun. Bad, nasty shadows that are made more of oil than of darkness.
Wow.
And so, Dante, do you want to respond? I just talked a lot.
yeah, that's really beautiful because, you know, the blessing that I've been getting from Portland is this deep earthing grounding that I came here thinking I'm gonna lay roots here, and the first couple weeks were just so beautiful when I was like feeling it out, like, oh yeah, this is a cool place, and it is a really cool place. Though when I decided I'm gonna move here, I'm gonna make something real and tangible, and take all of these gifts I have spiritually into a business that really can meet a lot of people and serve a lot of people, that
And also
they
meet
come,
your needs.
yeah, and meet my needs, and also they can come back and they can receive this medicine again and again, so that it changes their lives in deep ways. Because I see with the cacao ceremonies and the heart opening, all of these tools that I've learned, the shamanism, like when people commit to this fully, it changes their lives. Though if they're half in, it's like a remedial kind of like, oh, you got sore there, let's rub it off. And so that isn't actually what happened, but what did happen is I got really deeply grounded, and I don't know what is something about the energy here of like just these deep old ancient trees, or the consciousness around taking care of the earth that's more present here than in other parts of this country. Being in that field has really supported me and allowed me to kind of, you know, get grounded. And I was also around a lot of people who've already been through their Saturn return, like this kind of generation. You know, like the people I'm connecting with are of this generation that's a little bit 30 something, like, and one of my friends in my other video you can check out about light language, Trinity, was writing this album Psalms of Saturn, and like from the moment I heard the songs, and I was like, wow, this is what's going on. It's like we're getting deeply rooted here. So that was the blessing for me. And also then what you're saying of like this different entity that's not us speaks through us, like that entity of the consciousness here was kind of like grasping on me in a lot of ways, especially when I was like, I really want to stabilize myself here. And you know, I started to get like really concerned with things that before I wasn't thinking about, because there are all of these ideas that humans, like, you know, they bear on repeat. They're so concerned about, oh no, we're in this ecological collapse. We're in this time where there's this great inequality. They're concerned about this, that, and the other thing. And like these thoughts are played on
Which,
repeat.
of course, are absolute
And
real
concerns. It's all real concerns.
But
But there's a grip of fear. There's a grip of terror that paralyzes people.
I agree.
And there's also becomes like a right and a wrong way of interacting that
Have you ever told a plant that if it grows a little 2 degrees to the other way, you're gonna cut that plant apart? Sunflower, if you ain't growing with a straight back, you ain't growing at all. That's what it sounds like. Remember, we are all planting each other's seeds in consciousness, in our conversations, in our intimacy of community, and also holding large systems of government and corporations accountable. The way that shows on the ground first is that you have enough of a wink and enough of an intimacy with life and enough of a lusty attitude where it's like, you know, maybe we could do better than we're doing.
Yeah.
No, and just, I know that can seem like, just a moment, it can seem like a very, very privileged thing to say. Look at this lily white face, okay? But I want to tell you through my eyes and my smile, I've seen shit, and I've seen death. I've seen displacement. I've seen people in political situations and community situations. I've seen mental illness, addiction, sex workers trying to make it hard. Like, all these realities I'm seeing, because I'm grateful that people share their emotional intimacy with me, because when you're heart-centered and you try to be from a healing place, there's literally not enough judgment to make someone scared.
Yeah.
When you're trying to ask someone out of pure curiosity and pure tenderness It's a fundamentally different thing than, so you're a tranny, right? So it's just, there's a gentleness here that I want to hold space, that there are many people who are probably watching this video and not. Their existential reality is effing more complicated than mine. It is effing more like nuanced. There's layers there that I could not possibly understand. And if foot and mouth syndrome has taught me anything, it's that sometimes you don't have to put anything in your mouth besides silence.
Yeah.
And like, as someone who talks a lot, again, I take up space. I'm trying to figure out how I can show more reciprocity to people, just even in a human conversation. And then this goes up to how I feel about the energetics of possibility, right? Because I am an entity here. I have to be aware of my systematic privilege, my pretty privilege, my white privilege. But at the same time, I'm fucking studying to be a witch. I do art. I know really amazing people. I care about housing advocacy. And it's like, there's just a certain point that I realized in that sentence, I don't need to list any other badges. I don't need to be, inducted like some Girl Scout, gold award. And people are saying, oh, you're a good enough Girl Scout now. You're a good enough liberal. You're a good enough non-consumer fighting against capitalism. And again, it just goes back to Dante saying why I interrupted with that seed thing again. There is giving seeds a room to grow, and then there's giving seeds permission to grow as they must with the conditions that they were given. If you are not respecting the first one or the second one, what you're doing is essentially human-splaining to people what their form of consciousness and manifestation should be. And if it doesn't appear perfectly right, did you misgender me? Did you not know that there are people of color in the world? Did you know that poverty consciousness is real? Did you know that Target is canceled? And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of things that should be canceled. But if we spend all of our emotional energy and time in performing cancellation, rather than knowing that we should just unsubscribe, right?
Yeah.
Before canceling, I don't have to cancel Netflix. If I'm done with that, if I'm not, I haven't paid for it for years. I got it. Someone else gave me their log, and let's be honest about that. But if there was no content on Netflix and I was paying for it, I have a choice. Why would I still pay money and time for this resource when it does not serve my needs? I ask the same thing for personal friends, personal lovers, intimate community, and the immediate community socially that knits you to a metropolitan area. Again, all this goes back to seeds. It's really cool when in 10 by 20 feet of space in a garden, I've literally grown gardens that have over 50 varieties of native plants. Some are this big, some are this big. Some have roots this long, some have roots this long. Some are big, showy, herby things. Some are flowers. But the thing is, you give a plant the proper time, fertile soil, space, and resources to grow, it can grow in a way that is non-competitive with everything else that grows around it. And yes, I am aware of Darwinian theories when it comes to biological evolution and conservation and how things evolve. I get it. Okay, there's a little bit of severity in the world. At the same time, look at a well-tended garden. Because in that same space, there could be butterfly bushes. How beautiful butterfly bushes are. They're so fragrant and, oh, they're so pretty. They're so showy. But if a space had 100 plants of all different kinds, and then it was eviscerated because there's one butterfly bush strain that just wants to show off, violence occurred. That butterfly bush is called an invasive species for a reason. Because that invasive species ended up taking a possibility and a diversity in a space that before its entry was just self-fulfilling. The self-fulfilled prophecy for diversity and naturalness of life was there because it's simply entities doing their thing in the environment as they must. And then all of a sudden you get someone saying, Moss, you're not soft enough for me. And if you don't grow soft more quickly, because I'm really used to sitting on succulents in the Bay Area. I like this. There's this bar in the Castro, super cute. And it's like, I get that. Sorry, I'm taking up so much space. The last thing I could say about this seed and plant thing is just like, there's an absolute difference between inviting things to grow in their own space in their own time, and then there's mandating that things grow. Do I point at a sunflower and say, why aren't you showing up in January? Because that's not when they show up. Everything has a cycle and a nature. And to force a sunflower to grow in January is like telling a person who may not be aware of all the intersectionalities of queer politics that the first time they come to Portland from anywhere in America, a population of 500, and they didn't correctly gender someone, heaven forbid they weren't given the language to express the reality they always had. And heaven forbid any person telling that person that they are wrong in their growth pattern and the journey for where they are simply because they were raised in a different environment and now they became transplanted. And why did they become transplanted? Because they're trying to survive in a system that is slowly taking away every inch of fertile soil from our land. The less fertile soil there is, the less resources, the less economic opportunity, and the less chance for intimate community. That creates more social violence, more emotional violence, and more spiritual violence, which ends up leading and gravitating downwards to shame, and it elevates upwards towards control. Shame will always be in your gut, and control will always be on the top of your head, because it's a false form of those truths. Guilt should actually be pride, and mastery is what control should be. When you have proper pride and mastery, you are connected to the sky and the earth. But when you think in control and whatever the word I said, it's like, again, you end up locking yourself and you think that you are the sky and the earth, but actually your head reaches towards the sky and your anus reaches towards the earth. It will never fully meet either because we're always trying to stretch towards divinity. The divinity which is below us and above us. That's why I like tall guys, but I also like short guys too. So anyways, I want to check in with Dante because I've just taken up a lot of time, and so thank you for listening to me.
But really, I just invited you here to give you the time, to give you the space, because I feel like you have a lot to say.
Another example, because it's like, I've been so lonely and trying to figure out transness, femininity, dating, and being in the queer scene in Portland, because I've been here for 29 years. It's like, Dante and I have about as different of an experience related to Portland as you could, and yet there's so many things we connect on, because sometimes if you're centered in a proper way, it's like when you meet someone, and if that person is genuinely kind and genuinely great, they have great opportunities, they're just a little bit of a hot mess. It's easy to go ahead and look at that person and be like, look at all these amazing things, but there's stuff you need to work on. And just in the conversations that I've had, and even in the first part when Dante was speaking in this video, this person provided observations energetically about Portland that actually has destabilized assumed structures in my soul in a way that it's now being able to be reformed and reshaped, because sometimes you're so stuck in your world, you need someone from outside of it to pierce through and be like, hey, tap, 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 did you know this is happening? And I'm like, oh, I had no idea, because I was in this bubble. And so it's like sometimes the bubble needs to pop. And it's okay. And there's a difference between someone tapping you on the shoulder and it accidentally pops a bubble, as opposed to someone taking a sword and lancing it into your gut and saying, oh my bad, did I pop a bubble? Because again, those are fundamentally different things. And the thing I'm trying to give the tension of is, again, how do we invite possibility and consciousness into our reality? Are we going to invite possibility and consciousness in a way that's reciprocal? And of course, may have trauma. There may be anger associated with all this. But when your anger and your trauma and your systems of power inform you, then you can bring a certain level of je ne sais quoi and power to every moment in conversation, because you're the amalgamation of every single moment in your life up until now. And theoretically, if time is existing in all places and all things, you're also the aggregate of all of your other lifetimes and your possible future collapsing from the future onto you. So if you ever feel overwhelmed on a Thursday, just remember it's because Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are sitting on your front, and Friday and Saturday are sitting on your back. Because it's entirely all the time right now. Literally, they say the only time we have is now, right? And there's a very real reason for that pragmatically, because I can drink this cup now, or I won't, and I'll forget the cup here, and I ain't gonna drink the rest of the kava. So I have a choice. Do I want to drink more of the kava, or I'm gonna leave it here? That's a choice. That's absolutely a choice. Just as it's a choice to be more mindful of my reciprocity, or it's a choice to not be wrestled in anger about poverty consciousness in queer Portland, because we're in the systematic structure of a capitalism that literally wants to kill queer magical people. There's like, I just went from a tiny thing to a very large thing. Sometimes that freaks people out about me, but it's all related because, again, every level of systematic power and systematic agency should be linked, because agency and power is how we make things happen. And it's amazing, actually, then, when you realize there's different kinds of agency and power that are very valid. For example, there's a certain power I have when I can put makeup on my face. There's a certain power I have when I walk into a room a certain way. And there's also a certain power that happens when someone who is my spiritual equal and even higher up opens up a space of conversation where this is the conversation I can't have with a random person at the goddamn Crush. Don't get me wrong, I love Crush and I love my queer community, but again, it's like I've been so stuck in my idea that I'm in Portland and I'm a Portlander, I need to make it work. I realize as I can challenge my assumptions about what Portland has to be and what the world is, I end up starting to avail myself more of what the world actually is because I'm having less of a bad perceptual lens placed on me by my traumatic past. And I'm able to just be in the present moment and realize, oh, even when I've been told, kind of as a femme, someone who's very talkative, Moon and Gemini, Leo rising, a lot of stuff to say, there's been a lot of moments in my life where people are like, can you just quiet down or shut up? Because we really don't want to hear it. And it's like, I understand when I'm like Instagramming another picture of like a Jimmy Dean sausage link, and it's like the 4th Jimmy Dean sausage link this week, and like, yeah, girl, we get it, like Jimmy Dean sausages. But I'm not talking about Jimmy Dean sausages. Literally in about 21 minutes, we just went through cultural existential pain, incarnational realities, trying to figure out the limitations of where we're living, and then Dante's like hasn't even gained on the full journey of like all their observations about what Portland was. And then there's still things, because I interrupted so much. It's like, there's literally parts of the journey where it's just like, basically what Dante experienced in about, 5-6 months?
5.
5.
Yeah.
What Dante experienced in 5 months, because of their heart-centeredness and presence, most people should technically be able to realize with any city they move to. Yeah. And it's like, I meet people who have been in Portland 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 29 years, that we're so stuck in the habits and patterns of what the Portland animal is, we don't understand that sometimes the Portland animal is controlled by a whip and a chain that is not the animal's design. And so when people can travel either physically and or metaphysically to bring you different perspectives and angles from the crystal, the diamond of life, right? We're so stuck on this facet. Oh, this is our facet. Shine, 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 shine. If we don't have a shiny facet, it's gonna be real bad. And it's like, literally, we just remove the stress because you just focus on your facet and that's your truth, because the facet of a diamond does not control light, and the facet of a diamond does not control the rest of the diamond. It is only simply a substantive portion of the diamond. So when that facet, whenever that little fairy is scrubbing that diamond facet, it's like, oh my God, the red spot, the red spot. And it's like, there's absolute reasons for anxiety and trauma right now, but I've been experiencing the most amount of growth I have for a while in the last 2 weeks, because it's not just Dante, but a few other entities and people in my life have essentially said, can't you give yourself full permission to grow as a seed that you must? Realizing that you are responding to environmental conditions, that you may end up being more resilient and a stronger plant for going through the process of your seed growth in a soil that was not as fertile as it could have been. And then as we're having this entire conversation, it's like, hopefully there might be an openness of us going to you where it's like, we know shit. We've practiced shit. We connect on a lot of energetic principles, but at the same time, any magic and any shamanic view that we could talk about technically has no merit unless it affects people in a positive and meaningful way.
Yeah.
There's no point to philosophy or a code of religion if there's not actually an offering and an invitation by the doctrine, I don't like that word, by the set of tenets that we could possibly imbibe, not follow, imbibe. I don't want to follow the rule of love. I want to live the rule of love. I don't want to follow the rule of compassion. I want to be compassion. I don't want to be, oh, I'm just little Shane. I'll just hide in this incarnation. I won't poke anyone. I don't want to start any waves because that'd be rude for their ego shame. And it's like, do you know how many people live and die with less orgasms than they had moments that they needed to maintain their ego shame? Seriously.
Oh, that was a good one.
And so it's like, again, I just have to thank Dante so much in this moment, but the moments we've been sharing the last 2 weeks, because it's like, all the stuff I want to talk about, I've had suicidal ideation in the last 3 years and almost killed myself about 4 times because of shit. And it's like, I'm not saying I'm the greatest person in the world, but I'm certainly not the dude in the back going, titties, during a sex ed conversation. And it's just like when you realize that none of us are entirely terrible and none of us are entirely good. That's a huge gift because we can be fluid along whatever spectrum or idea of morality and choices there are to explore the greatest amount of growth we can in the soil we were planted, with the conditions at the time, with the quality of the seed we are.
And that brings me to, like, I just had this really good download as you were saying that it's this idea of being a good or a bad person informs so much. And you know, in order to really find that compassion where you can open up to this loving energy that empowers people, whoever they are, to open up and be like, oh, wow, you know, I am powerful. We're all powerful. And we all deserve that same love, is to really look at what you have in common and to really see, even though they seem so different in many ways, we're the same in this way. And what a fundamentalist Christian and a social justice warrior have in common is that they both fully believe that they are doing the utmost right thing and that they are a very, very good, shiny, great person.
And the fair question to both is, who's controlling whom here? Are you being an agent of your system, or is the system using you as an agent?
Yeah.
Like, there's a very different nuance there.
Yeah. So it's like, if you can see that there's good and bad in you. There's good and bad in everyone. And that's why the shamanic path is so much about looking at your shadows, going into them, and being able to see, like, oh, okay, you know, I may be intending to do this good in this way, but I'm actually motivated by fear in trying to help sometimes. I'm actually motivated by fear in trying to end this or that system. I'm actually more motivated by fear when I'm fighting against the problem out there. And being in that state of fear is always going to make you contract and tighten up. But if you do that if you work towards something better and you work towards that with love, the same journey, the same intention can be found in a very different way. And you can't fight against the system without strengthening it. Because whenever somebody's fighting, they're using their muscles, they're going to get stronger. So it's like,
okay, yeah. Yeah.
It's just what came with as you were saying that.
Well, it's also making me think, it's like, we're coming up across a holiday this week that's kind of...
Ooh, it's awful.
My favorite part about it is cranberry sauce and mashed potatoes and mushroom gravy. And the rest of it, you know, the colonialism, the existential despair, the entire taking of land, you know, you know, that's kind of fucked up, okay? But here's the thing that I'm realizing about, I've had more conversations with trans femme friends because this is my first Thanksgiving when I'm trans. And the reason I bring this up is, like, I've had to put a lot of armor on recently.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I want to be honest and I want to be emotionally available, and I want to be kind within my own truth, and I don't want to sacrifice my truth. Heaven forbid I want all those things. I'm so luxurious. Next, I'm going to want a house for $200,000. That crazy bitch. Anyways, but it's like, I'm thinking now about how I relate to my own body and my gender differently in a way that's so much more empowering to me. To me, technically, this is an entirely good thing. There is no one being damaged by me exploring my truth and being able to transition and be a trans femme and still non-binary. It's really amazing when I have friends and community that open to that person. And it's amazing now that I have the opportunity to realize that when I've had blood family that may be so caught in bad politics, bad identity, bad religion, and limited sexuality, I used to be so afraid of that. And their ego fear created a frame for the artwork that I was. And I would not let any vision of my artwork go outside of their framing, because how rude would it be for my beauty to ask if what they said to me and limited me with was actually not real? How dare my existence question their bullshit? And I'm getting to a certain level that it's like, there's a joyful practice in being yourself. There's a sense of wonder and majesty when you can just be so honestly yourself, and you be honestly yourself in such a way that's entertaining and cute, a little mischievous, a little fun, sometimes bitchy. Because guess what? Like, the world is every single quality and every single possibility mixed together.
Yeah.
And it's so disgusting when black trans women in the 1960s sacrifice themselves now for people to ghost each other at the level they do on Grindr. And then there was the amount of economic equality, at least on the social, like minimum wage and housing level, that literally 1955, if I got kicked out of the house for being a fucking tranny, guess what? I would have been able to go to anywhere in America on the coasts, West and East Coast, and I would find amazing housing possibilities, and I would find opportunity, and I would be able to mingle with people. That's a fertile soil. This is me gliding, you know, let's say my dandelion pod, it turned dead, and my parents blew me. Then they wish that they'd never have a faggot again. And then my dandelion seed of existence is drifting, hoping that somewhere I can go into the ground and just exist, rather than being an airy-fairy possibility with no roots and no substance to my being. And now, even when I talk about how Portland is a little bit more fertile ground, relatively speaking, I don't want to be assumptive here, and I do not want to negate the violence towards POC and also the racist policies in Oregon, because it's very, very specific, right? So please, I'm trying to be mindful of that. But at the same time, it's like currently still, I can still see studios in Portland right now on Craigslist that are $900, that are 400 square feet. A 400 square foot studio in the Bay Area will be at least over $3,000 or $4,000. That's a guarantee. And the only reason I'm bringing this up, because I hate wrestling and politics and money so much. I love money because of what I can do and treat my friends and buy housing projects that we're going to own cooperatively. That's great. But the money part that pisses me off is, again, it's almost like this artificial ego shame. And instead of money being used as a possibility to make soil more fertile, it ends up only being more permafrost put on the ground. And for me, it's like, we live in a fiat currency society. When we bring out a dollar bill, we expect and assume that it has value, when it can actually give us more value by blowing our nose or wiping our butt. But because of it being fiat currency of faith, fiat comes from the Latin of faith. So when we look at a dollar bill, we have a certain faith quality and a leap of faith that this has worth meaning. Why don't we make that leap of faith in believing that there's quality in meeting in other people before currency? And also realizing that I've been the person where I've tried to seek my own liberation. At the same time, I'm so stuck by my poverty consciousness and the possibilities of even finding a job for a trans woman or dating in the city, even as liberal as Portland. I'm existing in opportunities that people in places in war all across the world, they'd be like, you lucky motherfucktress. You lucky person that you incarnated there and that you can share your journey and you don't have to fear bombs every day. You don't have to fear cholera in your water. You don't have to fear people gunning down your door and getting you with Gatling machine guns. This is real crap. And this is when it's like, how grateful I am to be white with a white person. And we're like, oh, and you know what's great? Our awareness can stretch beyond our situational whiteness. And we don't have to do it in a way that's assumptive or a savior position. Because I think it's okay for me to be angry about how shitty the world is sometimes. And if I can use systematic pretty privilege, and I'm getting more boobies. And it's like, if I could use the systematic privilege, for example, to enter City of Portland's government, to enter Whedon and Kennedy, that's a design firm in Portland, to be able to femdom men for $800 an hour, and they're like, oh, please, baby, keep back home. And it's like, I could actually make that happen in a way that the system never prepared me for. And I had to craft that value and that research completely out of my own volition and need for survival. Not because the society told me I am a plant that should be here, but because I was a resilient seed planted from another dimension like others are. And we know for a fact there's a reason we have to stick around. Yeah. And it's weird because I'm telling you, I had a twin sister and she committed suicide. I don't need to get any more into that. What I am telling you is, chemically speaking, the closest form of death to a twin dying is a spouse. Imagine if you were going to the grocery store and you got a phone call from a police officer that your spouse was dead. And imagine all the ramifications. That happened with me with my twin, but I didn't even get to have sex with her. Not that I wouldn't. We're not on Game of Thrones, okay? And I'm super into men. So, and that's what she was. She was butch, but she wasn't a man. So, so the thing is, it's like, I bring that up as an idea inequality because I have seen the consequences of suicide. I've seen the consequences of death, even outside of a war scenario. Sometimes we know we're in a spiritual war because people are dying on a battlefield where there are no guns. I'm not saying that's a bad metaphor, because of course in America there are guns, but right now people are dying on front lines that we didn't even know were front lines. Those front lines are the sidewalks of cities that have urban policy that doesn't allow housing cooperatives for the income which people live in, and that creates displacement. Or we could end up making the system more fertile by being like, hey, property owners, you could have a tax break for every room that you rent to someone free of charge. For example, that would be a solution that's right there. But every building advocate and every corporation says, build more and more. Why? Because if you build more and more, you create new parcels of ownership and power that don't have to answer to any form of citizenry except those who can afford it. So when that ends up happening, we're essentially, again, looking at the ground and saying, you know, you're so fertile. Let me decrease the fertility of the soil so only certain kind of plants can hear. Aren't I a good gardener? No, you're not. You're a beast, calling yourself a gardener. And you're taking away possibility, and you're benefiting from it. And yeah, I don't care how cute your Instagram page is. Your face doesn't remove ego shame from actions of violence that literally cause people to become homeless. That's an example. I literally know this on the ground, just like anyone watching this video does, because more than likely, you're a renter and not a landlord. So there's a perfect example of like systems of power. The fertility of the soil is home, stability in home. And I know a lot of travelers, so it doesn't always look the same way, but let's say stability of home and resources, knowing you have a roof, a warm blanket, a hug from someone you need, and a toilet, because that's a really important one. And so if you have all these things, which I've had recently just the last few years and really coming to it, it's like, I'm actually worth living. Not only that, I'm worth living with people that make me feel happy. Not only that, I get to live with people that make me happy and help me chase my truth. And after all of that, I get the luxury on top of that of feeling beautiful. Do you know how many people take that for granted every single day? I'm gorgeous. I'm fuckable. I have money. I have a condo. Well, let's do it. Oh, you don't have a money condo. You're not fuckable? Honey, why don't you just try harder? Maybe you should move to Idaho. I hear it's a little bit cheaper. That's literally a butterfly bush decreasing diversity and saying to every plant, here ashwagandha, here camas lily, here daffodil, here lily of the valley, here Solomon seal. You're not enough for the thing you always were, because my presence has dramatically changed the fundamental fertility of your soil. Step off, bitch. That's literally happening right now all over America, and in a rapidified pace on the West Coast, because we somehow are still chasing gold that instead of physical, it's immaterial. The gold of meaning, the gold of information exchange, the gold of sexuality, the gold of intimate community. And so it's like, that if you're always chasing gold to cash out on it rather than make ritual jewelry that we can wear and ritual together, that's a fundamentally different relationship to the pus of the earth. Because that's what gold is, basically, is pus of the earth. And so we just drape ourselves with gold in our fancy banks and condos. And it's like, look how I string pearls of Earth's pus on me. All I had to do was squeeze her pimple and call her an ugly slut. And I got all of this wealth. Oh, and also, go America! I put a flag in the ground. There was a hole in the ground. And that hole was like, you know, I really need to define a hole. Yeah, that hole really needs a definition, because if I wasn't there and making a definition for that hole, it wouldn't have any meaning or definition. So I ended up putting a flag on there. It was a picture of my penis on that flag. And it is now America. Welcome to America, bitch. Welcome to freedom, motherfucker. And it's like, that's literally how humans are communicating right now. And I know that because I just got femme-shamed by one on Grindr today. So it's just like, I just had to bring back the space because I was so energy, and it totally talked about some really violent, crazy stuff. So let me hold space for that. I didn't do a trigger warning. I apologize. Do you know what also didn't give me a trigger warning? Life when I incarnated. And so, again, that's me being a sassy bitch. I absolutely understand there's a reason for trigger warnings, because you can be mindful of communication spaces. But this is our space, and you're watching our video, and it's also almost 40 minutes in. So if you reach this point and then you're being sassy about it, bitch, check yourself, okay? So it's just,
Yeah.
I can, if I'm trying to collect the energy and just be grateful for this moment and grateful for Dante, who literally has invited me to authenticity of my own spirit in a way that I haven't experienced for quite a while. And the only other medicine that does that really easily for me is shrooms. Psychedelics, like literally, it's a way to blast open the door, right? But when someone comes into your life and says, you don't have to open the door of your own heart with a bomb. You can open the door of your own heart with the hand of your own kindness. This is a person that has really taught me that. And the magic that I have is words come to me so easily.
Yeah.
I literally did not plan anything I was going to say in this video. It's just
You
shit
didn't plan anything.
it's just shit I talk about all the time. It's shit that goes in my head, my heart, my perianal area when I'm really bloated and I'm like, oh my God, I need to get fucked. Oh, economic inequality sucks. And also I'm horny. So it's just, but literally, to be in 2019 with the information technology we have and in Portland and all the friends in my community, all the performers, all the scene, I've still been suicidal because guess what? No flower negates an entire planet dying. And so as much as I
But
look,
that's the thing that a lot of people, what I was talking about of this like consciousness that traps people, is like the fear that everyone's feeling of the planet dying or the fear of this. And it's like, it's also finding your centers, snapping out of that and letting it, you just be in the moment. The moment of your powers right now. That there, we can work towards that. We're working towards like planting the seeds of the goodness in the world and bringing that love and bringing that equality and bringing like, yeah, we're nurturing the earth again. Though when we're motivated by the fear, like, we can be really impulsive. Or we can be like,
Yes.
what is the meaning of this? That's the thing that I see a lot of people here in getting back, is like, they lose the sense of meaning because it's like, oh my gosh, well, the world's just gonna die soon anyway, so it doesn't matter that I'm just sitting here working in this little store and it's all just going the way it's going. It's like, we have so much power, and that's also the meaning I wanted to convey. And also in what you're saying, it's like, yeah, there's so much power, and like what I like to do is like give people the space, like now and in the ceremonies, like to let that truth flow, because it has to just flow. And I think this is a very like new thing for a lot of people who are watching this channel. Like, wow, like it's so important that we just let our true heart speak, and also as we let the true heart speak, like realize that we're powerful.
and just two short statements I could say, indirect responses that I heard recently. Well, one is one I've crafted, one is what I heard on Kebu. The first one that I made, discomfort is not the same as danger.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of moments just in the last 2 weeks where the gentleness and kindness of this person actually formed an energy, and with the ceremony, it poked at parts of my inner soul where it's like, hey honey, cluck, cluck, cluck. I know I'm tapping on the glass and there's a scary tiger in there, but guess what? That tiger doesn't need to be caged. I want to pet the tiger. I want to make the tiger purr, but the tiger is so stuck in a glass. Can't do shit, right? So there's a certain level between discomfort and danger, is the idea that it might be scary to tap the glass and the tiger roars, but realizing that the tiger always had the reason to have a powerful roar is like, I don't know if that means anything. Let's just stop right there. The other thing I was going to say too is that this is what I heard. There are many situations in life where there will be no justice. This is guaranteed. But what is an artist? Someone who crafts meaning out of a situation with no justice.
Yeah.
And when I think about the art of humanity, the art of magical work, the art of people fucking having to work at a Subway with no tips and making their life work, like, again, there isn't true power in every single moment that we're living and dying, and that things are living and dying inside of us so that things can be born and die inside of us. And we realize that we are a microcosm. We're representative of a much larger order. So sometimes when you're bloating, sometimes when you have anxiety, sometimes when you have gas, it could actually be your body holding energetics and frequencies and spells and curses cast by capitalism or beauty culture, or that one person you had a really great love relationship with, but they had a coke addiction and then they had this weird emotional attached to you. Him. Not me. Anyway, but it's just, I'm just saying, it's like, again, there's so many ways that we give our power away. And we give our power away because we're expecting justice. We're waiting for the train of justice to arrive. And the train of justice, there's many parts of the world where those tracks do not lay. They don't. And to expect a train to jump its tracks for you is absurd. I've had a lot of moments where I've been waiting for more equity and more justice by the hands of my closest friends, my closest community. And because of their trauma and poverty consciousness, they could not provide this for me.
Yeah.
This doesn't mean they were wrong. It means my expectations were wrong, and it means that they could do better. Those things are both true. But at the end of the day, the worst sin was my expectations, because I wasn't fully reciprocating and understanding or compassion.
Well, I would say expect it, but don't attach the expectation.
Yeah, I need to work on that
Because
one.
it's just having that attitude of being open. You know, I want this thing, I'm expecting that thing. A real relationship to me is defined by someone who can show up to me, for me. Though if they don't, I'm not going to let that ruin what this is for me. I'm just going to see that as a lesson or as a blessing or as something that's going to help me choose to expect that love and that, like, somebody really showing up for me in a new way. Yeah, in a better way. And from, like, releasing and then, like, continuing to hold true, like, yeah, I'm really fucking deserve this. I really deserve love. I really deserve people who can see me. It may not come from the sources you expect, but it'll always come from somewhere. One thing I want to ask you, because maybe, you know, a lot of the people watching this video on my if they're still watching on my channel, we can timestamp this to the right moment. Maybe they don't really know that much about the queer community. They're just here for the alien channeling. The extraterrestrial.
Oh my God, sorry. Yeah, it's just I'm so in my world sometimes. I forget that other people may not know my world,
So,
right?
that's what I want to know is, like, so I have been reflecting on, like, what is the experience of being gay? What does that mean for me spiritually and showing up in the spiritual community? What is my unique offering? And it has a lot to do with, you know, going beyond those ideas of the gender and letting people see that, like, it's not only limited to the needs of survival. It's like we go into these other realms, and I feel like queer people in general can open to those other realms much easier, though there's a lot of people who don't necessarily want to do that. They just, like, they've been so traumatized that all they really want is to just stay in the, you know, stay in the fight, because the fight has become their identity, and that identity has not been something that it may not even be something that they experience themselves, the trauma, but that identity of trauma is given to them just by the culture of, like, gay people have been fighting, queer people have been fighting, trans people have been fighting for so long. And this is a different story, but there comes a point where, like, the fight has to end, and I feel like the fight has ended in me. My question is for you is, like, what is the unique spiritual gift of being trans?
Oh, awesome. So I am going to state my entire truth. Someone might end up hearing what I'm saying. They might call me cis scum. They might say I'm a TERF. And it's honestly, I've realized how many conversations I did not allow myself to have because I was afraid of that label being tossed at me. I want to show the mindfulness of what TERF can be. I want to show the mindfulness of cis scum and all that stuff, right? But in this moment, someone asked me an honest question, and I'm studying magic, and I have my soul and my experiences. This is how I'm going to state it, okay? Ready? That was the context. I'm finally glad I'm alive enough to be 30 and almost 31 to realize that the consciousness and the body that I was supposed to be born in and develop, it was almost like I was a subterranean plant and I wouldn't be able to show for 30 years because I had to develop all these roots, a very, very strong root network, because I knew that when the plant emerges, if it doesn't have a strong root network, I won't have stability because the environment that I grow in is windy, right? Rainy, sleety. Hail can actually happen. This is true for all plants. This is true for all humans. But when you add an intersection, for example, being trans feminine and non-binary, I literally had a gentleman today on a sex app ask me, before he introduced himself, did you have full operation yet? And I said a very long, vinegary response of, that's a gross question. Maybe it's not appropriate. Da 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 da. So after this, like, I'm telling my truth, he still said, oh, so you're a dude. The thing about the truth is that energetic exchange, and this will finally lead to actually answering this question, is here's a person who was married, they had a good job because it was on their profile, and they had no face. Yet they had all the entitlement and space in the world to say that if I wasn't going to perform my transness exactly as their orgasm and dick needed it, I'm not enough. And to be in a sandwich between my body is not enough for cis men and my truth emotionally and spiritually is not enough for queer people is a sandwich I found my place in. And now this is my truth that I respond directly. I believe that gender is essential. I think gender exists in the universe prior to humans' conceptions of it. I actually believe there are at least 7, let's take black and white, and this will actually, I promise this answers the question.
No, it's good.
Let's take black and white, darkness and light. Here's a square. Ready? 2 possibilities. Let's see the consequences of 2 possibilities. Here's a square. It's white. There's 1. It's all black. There's 2. It's separated into white and black evenly in the middle. There's 3. There's a yin yang and a square. There's 4. It's salt and pepper wars on a TV. There's 5. And the 6th one, black and white didn't show up. They missed their Uber. So there's neutrality. Because in a binary system, it is not only the binary choice, but the binary existence of whether it is or it is not. So, when the gaze of great masculine and femininity, strong American values, strong yin and yang, they could actually have a perspective that cannot see the invisible because they're not invisible themselves. Well, the reason I bring up this black and white concept is let's look at femininity and masculinity. To answer the question directly and then provide context, I believe I was born in this body to have a feminine experience as a goddess worshiper in a male body. Most of my early and sexual life was as a male, was as someone defined as a male by society with body hair. I had men rub my chest hair and say, you better not get rid of that. That's such a manly thing. I had men, 30 to like 80 telling me that when I was trying to be a little gavey, like trying to figure stuff out. I had men all over the place, gay men who actually didn't tell me their name before they sent me a dick pic. I know that's common, but actually this continued into the relationship because I was so lacking my own inner power and I needed intimacy and sex so badly. Or at least I was telling myself that. I would put myself in situations where people would literally tell me what I should be doing with my body. And I realized, wow, recently I made a lover. Total cis privilege. Super cute, very bi, very versatile. And he looked at me and I was like talking and I said, it's hard, but I'm really liking how my femininity is coming in. I'm actually getting boobies. I've lactated. My hair's growing thicker. I feel like I have more patience. And I just am like so horny for men now. And not just like conventionally attractive, gangly dudes, nerds, fuck boys, bros. I'm just like, I love being feminine.
Okay.
Great. So my combination of masculine and feminine is essentially that I was born in a male body, defined male, right? But I'm excited to transition. I'm excited to have a penis and a ball. Long story short, lost a testicle this summer. You don't need to know the details, but if you buy me a drink, you can find out. But it's just, I have a penis. I have 1 testicle. I have estrogen coursing through me. I'm getting to start having little boobies. And guess what? This is an entirely natural body. This is a human body with human hormones placed in. And literally we know by the spread of sexuality and humanity and just biology, there's literally so many X and Y chromosome patterns and combinations. You could literally have Tom, Dick, Jerry, Karen, Belle, and Emily in front of you. The most boring ass people with the boring ass jobs and the beige ass houses. And these 3 entities could literally have different chromosomal differences. Because masculinity and femininity is not just the perception of activity and producing babies. The larger level of masculinity and femininity is yin and yang. It's activity and receptivity. It's being able to dance and go back and forth. And for me, that nuance and playfulness is to know that I've been in a male body with male hormones and male horniness. When I dress up from really pretty and I'm just in nice, beautiful environments, housing advocacy, I'll just wink at a man after we talk about 15 minutes of housing policy based on aggregate investment strategies, either on a national or corporate level. And I'm just like, these functions make me so horny. And then the two men that I'm staying to, Dick and Tom, one from Ohio and one from the Bay Area, they're like, because I can be playful with them. And I had the journey in my life that I know how men operate because I've been a man. And I know how they've been conditioned in America because I've been a man in America. Or at least called one. So again, to answer the question, then bring it to a close, it's like the seed that was planted in me, I realized I thought it was a dirty, wrong plant. And I just realized my root growth period was so much stronger now that my flower is emerging. It's a flower with composite, unique, interesting colored petals. It's not just a simple daisy or a daffodil, which is excellent, but sometimes a rare flower needs all the time and space to grow. Like in Mulan, it's like, Mulan, the last flower to bloom on that tree will be the most beautiful. And there's a truth to that, because time and space exists as resources and hindrances towards divinity. And when we can ride the tension between the opportunities we are given by our own consciousness and the hindrances which a limited world presents us, there is the tension of poetry and art. And that's where you end up having self-identification. And so all that rambles to directly ask, what's the queer power of a trans person? I can't answer what is the actual power of a trans person. What I can answer is, what is the power of myself as a person who is trans? And the power that I bring is a witch awareness, a craft awareness, and a sensual awareness that I can literally intersect systems of male power, suck a dick for $800 an hour and leave, not get pregnant, which are all technically things that do not burden me. So I get to be feminine, yet intersect with masculine principles and systems, and exit in a way that has less consequences because I can never get pregnant. Literally speaking, this is an amazingly big burden and a glorious journey. And the truth of my spiritual existence about being the trans person I am in the community I'm finding myself in is like, I love gender. And I love gender so much. I think there's at least 1,000 base genders. And in a society that told us there's only vanilla ice cream and chocolate ice cream, both are good, don't get me wrong. But I say this life is Baskin billions. And as I'm starting to chase my own flavor, as it scoops from the bowl of my cosmic ice cream and how it lays on someone's bowl or it lays on someone's cone, all I can think is, wow, I'm really lucky I'm still alive to be the flavor I must be. And you are all lucky to experience the flavor I am. Because that's nuance and diversity, and that's what actual life is when nuance and diversity exists. So, and the other power is, I get to penetrate men literally and metaphysically in a way that no woman born with a cis identity could. So again, the greatest power I have right now as we're going from 2019 to 2020 and getting the angry Cheeto out of our goddamn uterus is like being playful and intersecting with systems of power and giving them an orgasm so they're distracted enough so that when you take their 401k and you give it to people on the ground, they're actually going to feel grateful for it. Oh my God, I got that level of an orgasm and you reduced all the bloated of my economic policy and you can use it to make people better. Long story short, I'm going to be a witch that charges guys $1,000 an hour every time I suck their dick, and $500 is going to go into a bank account so I can buy properties for queers. Because that's what I can do. And I can do that with metaphysical awareness and nuance, and it's playful and fun. That's the best answer I could give to that question.
That's a beautiful answer.
Awesome. Great.
Thank you so much for sharing this space with me and for opening up and sharing all of your truth and your magic, because I really feel you have a voice that the world is needing to hear, and you have power that is going to blossom forth from you.
Sweet, sweet child of the universe.
Meow, meow. thank you all for watching, for enjoying this. And what is your channel going to be called?
That's an excellent question. I'm thinking What She Say. If it's not taken, WHATSIDHESAY.
Well, anyway, I won't upload this completely until the channel's already there. So
And then there'll be a thing. This is what the channel's name is, because we now know it and we can edit text after a video. Because it's 2019, we put someone on the moon.
Look for her channel if you like this discussion. There's more on the way. And thank you for bringing some new flavors. Thanks for this mermaid too.
Yes.
She's really sweet. Much love. Bye
Bye-bye.